Hey guys, it's Mrs. Clancy. Today we're going to do a flipped classroom on solving equations. So before we start, I want to make sure you have the yellow packet that says flipped classroom equals solving equations lesson and a pencil and a calculator on hand so we can get started. So the first question we're going to look at is how to solve for x in 5 minus 3x equals 23. This year we're going to take it a little differently. We're going to ask ourselves what is happening to x. So if you look at x, we recognize that it's being multiplied by -3 and added by 5. So I want you to write that down so we have a little guide. Now what we're going to do is we're going to reverse the order and the operations that we just wrote down. So the opposite of adding by 5 is subtracting by 5, and the opposite of multiplying by -3 is dividing by -3. So now we have a key. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to subtract by 5 on both sides of the equal sign. So we put -5 on one side and -5 on the other. We cross it off and make sure we bring the -3x down and the equal sign down. And then in our calculator, we're going to plug in 23 minus 5 and get 18. The next thing, now that we're done with that step, is we're going to divide by -3. So now we'll divide by -3 on both sides. And in your calculator, you're going to cross off the -3's. You're going to bring your x and your equal sign down. And now you're going to plug in 18 divided by -3, and you get -6. Now, to make sure we get it right, we're going to check our answer. So at the bottom, you're going to rewrite the equation 5 minus 3x equals 23. We're going to use our store button. We're going to do -6 store x. And now we're going to type in 5x minus 5 minus 3x, press enter. And we should get 23 equals 23. So now what I want you to do is I want you to try the same thing on the problem on the right-hand side and see what you get for your answer. Once you're done, you're going to put your answer in the Edpuzzle. Now flip the page over to page 2, to number 2, where it says solve for x. 6x plus 9 equals 24. In this particular one, we're going to section off the box into 2 separate sections. On the left-hand side, we're going to talk about what's happening to x, and on the right-hand side, we're going to use the distributive property. And I want to show you that both methods will still get us to our answer. So now that you have it teed off, just like it is on the paper, on your paper, we're going to start solving under what is happening to x. So you're going to ask yourself what's happening to x. X is being added by 9 and multiplied by 6. The next thing we always do is reverse the order and the operations. So the first thing you're going to do is divide by 6 on both sides, and then subtract by 9, because that's the opposite of addition. So let's start with dividing by 6 on both sides. We divide by 6 on both sides. We cancel out the 6's, bring the x plus 9 down, and then in our calculator, we're going to do 24 divided by 6 and get 4. Now that we're done with that step, cross it off. We're going to subtract by 9 on both sides. So subtract 9 on one side and on the other side. Bring down the x, bring down your equals, and now in your calculator, you're going to put 4 minus 9 and get -5. So what we want to do is make sure we check this answer and to see if we get it right. So we rewrite the equation, 6 times x plus 9 equals 24. We store in -5 for x, and now we type in 6 parenthesis x plus 9, enter. And see, did we get 24 equals 24? Check. Now I want you to try the question on the right. You're going to section that off into 2 boxes. And this time you're going to try this method by asking yourself what's happening to x and answer it in the Edpuzzle. Now we're back to the distributive side. So look back at the distributive side. That's empty. And what we do is we're going to rewrite the equation in the box. 6 times x plus 9 equals 24. And this time we're going to multiply 6 by x and get 6x. And now we're going to multiply 6 by 9 and get 54. Bring down your equals 24. Next thing we're going to do is always ask ourselves, what is happening to our x? X is being multiplied by 6, added by 54. So now what we do is we reverse the order and operations that's happening. So the opposite of adding by 54 is subtracting by 54. And the opposite of dividing by 6, multiplying by 6 is dividing by 6. So now we're going to start. We're going to first subtract by 54 on both sides of the equal sign. We're going to cross off the 54s, bring down the 6x and the equal sign, and then in your calculator, you're going to do 24 minus 54 and get negative 30. The next thing, now that we're done with that step, cross it off, we're going to divide by 6 on both sides. So we're going to divide by 6 on one side and the other side, cross off the 6's, bring the x down, bring your equal sign down, and now in your calculator, you're going to do negative 30 divided by 6 and get, divide it, negative 5. Now we're going to check our answer. Same thing like we did before. It's already stored in your calculator, so you just have to plug in 6 times x plus 9 equals 24, and we get 24 equals 24. Check. So now on the other side, try the distributive property type and see if you can get the same answer that you got the first time with using what was happening to x. Plug your answer in the end puzzle. Now flip it over to number 3, and we're going to complete the last task at hand. This question is asking us what's happening to n. So as we look at it, we see what's up with n, and n is being subtracted by 4 and divided by 6. So we're going to reverse the order and operations that are happening. So instead of dividing by 6, we're going to write multiply by 6. And instead of subtracting by 4, we're going to add by 4. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to multiply by 6 on both sides. That's the 6 we're going to be using to multiply. So we're going to multiply by 6 on one side, and on the other side, we're going to cross up the 6's, bring down the n minus 4 and the equal sign, and then in your calculator, you're going to put 9 times 6 and get 54. Now that we're done with that step, cross it off, we're going to add by 4 on both sides. So we're going to add 4 on both sides, bring down cross off the 4's, bring down the n and the equal sign, and in your calculator, you're going to add 54 and 4 and get 58. Last but not least, we're going to check our answer. We're going to rewrite the equation. We're going to store 58 in for x, and we're going to type it in with alpha y equals. So we're going to do alpha y equals number 1, x minus 4 on top, go down to the bottom, push 6 in, and enter, and you should get 9 equals 9. Now you're going to practice again to the question on the right. When you're done with the answer, you're going to plug it into the Edpuzzle, and you're completed with the Solving Equations Flipped Classroom. Awesome job, guys.